is a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning. I've been trying to reach you. Find the gun! This is about a king, and Riddler's the match.
I can take care of myself.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
I don't care what happens to me.
It's only gonna get worse for you.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart. Hear everything they say, ain't you?
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance. What's black and blue and dead all over? You. Dear God.
I got you! I got you!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a very special episode of Ranked and Reviewed, where today we are but we are reviewing the new Batman movie. I am your host, Tomye West. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Alannis Maximus.
Greetings.
How you going, man?
Yeah, I'm going good.
So people that watch us and check out our stuff all the time will be like, why does your video look the way it does, Tom? And that's because I'm currently not at my usual place where I do it. I'm at a friend's house, so I have got a crappy green screen background, which gives me this dumbass shit around me. Look at it. So if I just stay still in the right spot, I kind of look like a ghost, man. Like I could disappear.
You kind of look like you're Batman.
Yeah, I'm very long and overstay my welcome. Anyway, that's a joke. Anyways, how are you apart from that, man? What else has been happening? What'd you do on the way home apart from spending 7 hours at the theater?
I looked for a Batman mask and couldn't find one anywhere, which is weird. And other than that, getting over a cold, which I'm at the tail end of, which is good.
Yeah, nice. Well, yeah. I'm going to put the footage before this review, so a lot of you would see that I actually did wear a Batman mask today at the cinemas. But it was funny because I didn't plan on that. I just happened to have this Batman mask in the boot of my car from when my son was really young. I just never have taken it out. So I was like on the way there, and I was like, I wish I had a Batman mask. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I do. So I wore a shitty blue Batman mask on the way there. And when I rocked up, Ellen was like, so yeah, anyways, before we get into the review and our thoughts and things like that, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Especially subscribe. It would really help us out a lot. And also go check out our Facebook page. Keep up to date with everything that's happening there. And yeah, basically can hear and find out things that are coming to our YouTube channel before they hit. So let's get straight into it without further ado, Alan. We went and saw the Batman movie at 12:15 today, and we got out at 12:15 tomorrow. No, I'm joking. We got out at was it 3:20?
I think it was about 20 to 4, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So, okay. So before I get into my thoughts, I want to hear your thoughts, being sort of the person that was not really into the Christopher Nolan sort of Batman style thing. You like the Batman v Superman, but you're not the biggest Batman person. You're into superheroes, but you're more of the Marvel side of things. So I just want to hear what you thought of this movie.
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, which is good. I was kind of going, am I going to like this? Am I going to sit here for 3 hours going, But I didn't. Towards the end, I did get a little restless, which I think we'll get into later on. But overall, it was enjoyable. It was depressing. I may now need therapy because that movie was dark and depressing with no let up, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah. So my thoughts are that I liked the movie. It was really good. It's probably one of the best Batman movies there is. But the length killed it for me. Not killed like the movie completely, but like just killed me. By the end of it, I was, making jokes like, every now and then Alan would lean over and say like, I'm Batman, or I'd lean over to him and say like something. And then at the end, I was saying exactly what I said, which is, I'm overstaying my welcome. You know what I mean? So, there was just moments where you were like, okay, it's coming to the climax. It's going to end now. And you think, okay, this is like it's over now. And then next thing you know, it's still going 20 minutes later with more. And then you're like, oh, okay, now it's going to end. And 20 minutes later, it's still going. And it just kept going.
Like the end of the Lord of the Rings movies. It's like, oh, that's a nice wrap up. Here come the credits. Where are the credits?
Nope. So yeah, I've had a couple of. Usually, we just as soon as we get home from doing a review, we'll jump on and review it. But I've had a few hours to actually kind of sit here and think on it a little bit more and stuff like that. And I enjoyed the movie a lot, but towards the end, it was actually, it was just becoming hard to sit through. I'm really surprised that Warner Brothers allowed that length and also allowed the dark tone of the movie. And for anyone that wants to know what sort of we mean by the dark tone, if you've seen the trailers and things and you've heard the Nirvana song that plays during that trailer, that's the tone of the actual movie through the whole thing. There is no other tone. Do you agree with that?
Really long Nirvana video clip.
Yes. Do you agree that there was if that song represented the movie, that would be the perfect way to represent this entire film? I also want to know what you think about Robert Pattinson as Batman and what you think he did for the Bruce Wayne character and things like that. Because I have some interesting things to say about that.
I reckon he did well. He did really well as Batman. I don't know how sold I am on his Bruce Wayne, but that was the other thing. They didn't really have much Bruce Wayne. Like in the other Batman movies, it's equal parts kind of thing. Like Bruce Wayne's as much a character as Batman is, but in this, he was quite absent, which I thought was interesting. And I think I kind of liked as well. Like coupled with, it didn't really focus on his background and his origin. We all know that. We've seen that 80 times. But yeah, it was. I think from what we saw, it was different, but there wasn't a whole lot of development on Bruce Wayne's end. Yeah.
Well, my thoughts on him was that, okay, so with Batman, there is not much skill acting as Batman. He's very one note. He's, through any movie except for, especially like the Christian Bale movies and stuff like, he has those moments of like, where is he with the Joker and stuff like that. But like majority of the time he's like, Jim, it's Batman. Jim, meet me here. Or I'm vengeance. That's the whole character, But with Christian Bale's Batman, when he was Bruce Wayne, he would put on like the billionaire sort of, lifestyle, and he'd go into like restaurants with the girls, like 3 girls on his arms, and he'd like kind of play into the billionaire rich boy side. Whereas I felt with the new Batman today that Bruce Wayne was no different to Batman. He just didn't talk with a voice. Instead, it was like still just as depressed, still stern, still straight, but was still the same as Batman. So to me, it wasn't like he did a bad job as Batman. He was fine, but he also wasn't great because he didn't have to really extend his acting any further than what he did during the Batman scenes. You know what I mean? Do you agree with that sort of assumption of it?
Absolutely, and it's interesting. I don't know. I haven't seen him in much, so I don't know how we would have at least in looks. He doesn't look like that. That was one of my kind of apprehensions that I'm like, I don't believe him as kind of like in looks is like the rich guy Batman with the girls on his arm. He just doesn't have that look about him. Like that might have worked, and we don't know now. But I think maybe that's why they kind of steered away from it. I don't know, or maybe to be different.
But, I mean, you're getting one thing though, man.
Yeah.
Twilight. No, so like I agree totally. It's weird too because you get to see Bruce Wayne in this movie, but I don't think we saw him much. Like we saw him like kind of at the start with Alfred, and then you kind of see him again later on at the funeral bit, and then you see him again later on when he's like doing the spray painting that plan and he's in his house or whatever. And that's basically the only times you get to see. Oh, and when he goes to see Carmine Falcone. So, but like they're very small parts in them. Of course, very fucking long movie, but so yeah, I mean, there was a lot more Batman than there was Bruce Wayne, but in the Bruce Wayne parts, there was really nothing special about the acting there or anything like that. I don't think that, to be honest, like I don't think you need to be a master craftsman to play Batman. You don't need to be the best actor in the world to play Batman. So I think he did fine, but and everyone knows this. That anyone that knows me knows, my opinion of like the Dark Knight movies. I think Christian Bale's voice on those Batman movies is fucking terrible. He does like a terrible job, but he nails it in every other aspect. Whereas I do feel like this new Batman has a great sounding voice because it was not like, where is he? It was like, where is, like, it was just normal, but toned down a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah. What did you think about the pacing of sort of like, well, not the pacing, but sort of like the divide between the detective stuff and then the action stuff, or like, because like this movie wasn't as action orientated as many other superhero movies or even other Batman movies. This was more of a detective movie than it was him being the superhero Batman or the vigilante Batman. So like, you know, I feel like this movie lacked some action compared to previous installments in Batman movies. But how do you feel about that?
I think it was well balanced. Like it was, the slow parts were interesting enough and detective parts were interesting enough to kind of keep you going, all right, I'm entertained. And they always had something new to bring in, like if it was rolling out another character like Falcone or revealing something. And then it was Batman again being violent and kicking some ass. Like, it paced itself really well in that regard. I don't think it slowed it down to the point where you're like, come on, I want to see action. It was good.
Actually, come to think of it, there was probably one standout bit of him acting, sort of putting his acting chops on with the Bruce Wayne part, and that was when he saw Alfred in the hospital and was like, "Why did you lie to me?"
Yeah.
That's probably where he showed his most acting chops in it. I mean, we're going to try and we're not going to spoil this movie for anyone in this review, by the way. We're going to try and talk as little about, you know, parts in the movie, you know, but we will talk about our thoughts, our impressions, some of our favorite moments in the movie, but nothing that's going to spoil it for you guys or ruin the experience. We want to try and make this a spoiler-free experience. This is unlike Scream, where when we did our review for Scream, you can't talk about anything about that movie without accidentally spoiling it for someone. So that's why we just made it like completely like, let's just fucking talk about this movie and we'll make sure that people know we're going to ruin it for them if they are checking it out. You know what I mean? So with this movie, we're going to keep it spoiler free. But yeah, what did you think of the Riddler?
At first, I don't know. He was a good psychopath at the start, but he wasn't a great Riddler. Like towards the end, when he was kind of messing with Batman, and it was kind of the end game point. He was selling it to me as a Riddler then, but for the first 2/3, 3/4, he was a good, creepy serial killer guy, but he wasn't really the Riddler, I don't think.
Hey, that's why I thought he was like, I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Seven, with Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, Kevin Spacey. You've seen that, haven't you, Alan?
Yeah.
That's what this movie felt like to me, was that he was leaving like riddles for him, which it was like the 7 deadly sins kind of thing with Kevin Spacey. That, you know, it had the sort of even the same tone as that movie, kind of. If you really think about it, if you go back and think about it, this whole movie feels like Seven or something slightly like that, just with a Batman twist to it. But my thoughts on the Riddler was that he was great as, like, yeah, he was fine as a villain and stuff. I didn't enjoy much of him though until it was him versus Batman in that get through that glass at the prison cell. That part I really liked, how sort of that he showed how psychotic he really was in that moment. You know what I mean? But up until that point, it was just like another guy that's like, oh, crying out at society, you know, whatever, you know, feels hard done by, whatever. But when he was in that cell and Batman speaking to him, he was kind of leaning into like the Lex Luthor, Jesse Eisenberg sort of craziness, but even further. Do you agree with that? That it felt like a moment like that?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
He was like, you know, sort of, you know, doing long, like, you know, Bruce Wayne, like being all really creepy and stuff, which like Jesse Eisenberg has those moments. It's, you know, like where he's like, black and blue, fight night. You know what I mean? Like sort of psychotic. So
it kind of it felt like it was a lot less slapstick and over the top, but almost kind of inspired. When it was good, it almost felt kind of inspired by the Jim Carrey Riddler, I think, to a bit, with that kind of the drawing out and the loopiness. I think it was definitely not the same, but it had similar aspects, I think.
And remember, we're telling everyone that this is basically the last portion of the movie. You don't see this like aspect to the Riddler until then. But yeah, as you said, it didn't really feel like the Riddler. I mean, this could have easily been, except for the riddle aspect to it, and like him like leaving his, you know, weird puzzles and stuff like that. I think this could have easily been something like the Calendar Man, because I mean, it started on Halloween, the movie, which sort of I felt like it's a significant date. So if Calendar Man was involved, Calendar Man does everything on holidays, obviously, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I did think it was an interesting villain, but I don't think it was anything super awesome until we sort of got the, you know, like the final sort of bit of the movie. And that's where I'm going to compare him to, say, Heath Ledger, where I'm going to say Heath Ledger is still the king villain in any Batman movie ever made. That's my opinion. I don't think this villain even touched Heath Ledger's performance. And I also am going to just straight out say that I don't think this movie touches The Dark Knight. I think that The Dark Knight is still the best Batman movie. Then I would probably put this at second. I don't know how you feel about that. What did you feel? How do you feel about this?
I think it's a long conversation where I'll kind of put them. So, I mean, even what we have here, at face value, is probably a bad decision, but there's a long conversation of where I put the Batman and Robin towards the top as well. But in terms of the grounded Batman, I'll put this as a whole, probably, I don't know, maybe on par with or just below The Dark Knight, but above the rest of the Dark Knight series.
Definitely, I agree. It's definitely above. It's hands down definitely better than Dark Knight Rises. But
and Batman Begins didn't get me because it was for half of it a ninja movie. Like
exactly,
you don't see Batman until the end.
It was you're probably thinking a little bit different there because it is more like a little bit over half of it is Batman, but like the first 45 minutes to 55 minutes of that movie is him training to become Batman. So, but I also do like. I don't think I've said this to you before. I want to know what you think. What do you think of the guy who plays the Scarecrow in the first movie?
Oh, I can't remember his name, but I
really liked him. I was really annoyed in Batman Begins that it turned out that it was Ra's al Ghul and Liam Neeson more than it was Scarecrow in Batman Begins, because in Batman Begins it starts off with him being the main focus.
Yeah.
And then it's driven to you know. Oh, sorry, 1 second. I'm just fixing this up. It's driven into a Ra's al Ghul story. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I mean, just to give everyone a quick reminder, I'm going to share my screen. This is the guy. Some people might not have seen this movie. Some people might have. This is the guy I'm talking about right now. 1 second.
Who? The Batman. What do we do? What anyone does when a prowler comes around. Call the police. You want the cops here? At this point, they can't stop us. But the Batman has a talent for disruption.
So if you see the way he kind of delivers that line, I like that villain style that he's delivering, where he's kind of like a weird dude, where he's like, you know, call the police. Well, the Batman, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I really enjoyed his performance. So I mean, like comparing the two of those, how would you say the Riddler went as well? Would you say like that he would stand above Scarecrow for you, or what?
I think maybe a little bit higher for Scarecrow, because he's a little more, as you said, a little more true how the Scarecrow is, a little more villainy.
Yep.
Rather than just serial killery.
And it's awesome how they always bring him back too. I don't know if you remember, he is in Dark Knight, and he's also in the Dark Knight Rises as well, which is he like is in the courthouse as the judge in Dark Knight Rises when the city's taken over by Bane. So he's actually the villain in all three, but he seemed to be like he was going to play a bigger villain part than he actually did in Batman Begins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like also there's a couple of other things I wanted to talk to you about. Now, I looked into it and I've double checked. Batman's only supposed to have been Batman in this movie that we saw today for 2 years. Yeah. How is he so good at solving random shit? Like, okay, for instance, when they got that clue that said drive, and he knew where to go, he knew what car to look at, and then knew what he was looking for. And listen, all those little hints, like, okay, say if you had no idea and someone was like, it says drive, you go, the fuck does that mean? Or then if you did work out that, then walk to the car. How did you know that you were looking for a USB? And then how he's like the thumb drive. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there were so many things where it's like, I probably just shouldn't second guess or just shouldn't put too much thought into it. But like, how does this guy know and do so much shit on the drop of a hat? Like, what does a liar do when he's dead? He still lies. How the fuck did you guess that, bro? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, what did you think about that aspect to it?
I agree. He didn't feel wet behind the ears at all. Like, he felt like he was the older Batman in the younger Batman's kind of body. Like, he, as you said, he was kind of straight on the money. And I liked that at one point because you had Alfred correcting him and going, maybe it's this. But then it kind of about faces and Batman's like, no, but it's this. And he's right. It's like, I don't know. I think he should have been corrected by Gordon and corrected by Alfred. Is that kind of maybe that kind of like mental learning curve kind of rule rather than just being, I'm Batman.
It just blows my mind that the police seem to be way stupider than Batman. And Batman's been Batman for 2 years. And it's like, where did this guy get all this experience, knowledge, and understanding of like it? Okay, so there's like ciphers to like decipher. There's like codes to decipher. He's an expert at that. He's an expert at riddles. He's an expert at planning things. He's an expert at Like, there's just too much there for him to be like, how does he go know all this? You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I just thought about that when I was thinking about the movie again. I was like, how did he put two and two together of this and this and this? But then, if you just think about it, yes, Batman's supposed to be the world's greatest detective, so I guess I'll just leave it at that. You know what I mean? So, and I'm gonna say it straight out: the last part of the movie, where we kind of find out that what Riddler's planned and stuff like that, and it happens and goes down in the city. I thought that was probably the best part of the movie, the whole bit. But by the time we reached that point, I was over it.
Yeah.
Because it had just gone too long. And as I said to Ellen before we went and saw this movie today, I said it last night when I found out how long the runtime was. I really wish this was on a streaming service, because if I want to go to the toilet, I miss out on parts of the movie. If I want to have a quick cigarette, I miss out on parts of the movie. If I want to go get a drink from the drink place, I miss out on parts of the movie. And
that exactly happened.
And that's what I meant with a 3-hour movie. By the time that movie ends, it doesn't matter how good that movie was. I just couldn't sit in that fucking theater any longer. So we know there was a post-credit scene. And once the credits rolled, I said to Ellen, I don't care. We're going. Because apparently Ellen looked up what it was too, which I haven't found out. I'll get you to tell me later so it doesn't spoil it for people. But yeah, like, I don't know. As I said, once we got to sort of like that awesome part with the city and everything going on in the city, it was awesome. And I really enjoyed that. But I also was just kind of like wiggling in my chair and like wanting it to be over. Look, Jackass, I love. I think it's probably going to end up being one of my favorite movies of the year. But if that was 3 hours long, I would still be the same thing. It'd still be the same thing for me. So I'm not trying to, give it a hard time, this movie, just because it's a Batman movie or whatever. This is too long for any movie, in my opinion. It was so long. Alan, do you want to tell them what happened towards the end of the movie with a fellow in the theater?
Oh, we had a guy pack his stuff up and walk out.
The moment, do you remember the moment? It was when Catwoman said, "Don't worry, it's over."
Yeah.
He got up and walked away. It still had another half an hour. Like, oh man, and you could see people. I could even see people that were like really like glued to the screen, losing interest towards the end too. Like, did you see that row of like 4 people that were like a little bit in front of us? They were like starting to like talk to each other and stuff towards the end and things like that.
Yeah, the guy next to me screaming on him.
Dude. For a second I was worried, because I was like, maybe this guy has like handicap needs and I don't want to like look over and like glare or anything. Then I realized that this dude was just yawning, but loudly. Okay, so when I yawn, if I make a loud yawn, I do it on purpose usually. It's like, oh, to let it out, you know what I mean? But I usually yawn quiet, like silently, you know what I mean? Maybe you'll hear a breath, like a, but with this guy, every 20 minutes I heard, oh, oh, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? And then you told me he was falling asleep. And I was like, why go to one of the first Batman showings of the day it releases and snooze and yawn in the theater? I just didn't understand it, man. So a couple other elements I wanted to talk about, some of our favorite moments. By the way, this isn't going to be a long review because we don't want to spoil it for everyone. And we're only going to talk about this film as much as we think it needs to be talked about. What did you think? What were some of your favorite parts in the movie? Because I've already got some ideas of what my favorite parts were.
I think my favorite part was the confrontation between Penguin and the car chase. I think that was the actioniest bit.
Yep.
And the dialogue between Riddler and Batman towards the end, I really enjoyed, because that's where the Riddler really shined. And it's probably a little too spoiler to say that one, so I won't say that one. But those are probably the 2 not spoily favorite scenes for the movie for me.
well, my favorite scene in it was when Batman went to the Iceberg Lounge and just walked through the Iceberg Lounge, literally fucking everybody up. And anyone that, like, literally he's walking so quick and everyone's, he's bumping shoulders and shit. And everyone that walked near him, that went to touch him, he was just like, bah, fuck up, bah, bah, like, and it was like, there was hundreds of people there and he wasn't scared of anybody. And then I also like that scene you might have seen at the trailer when he was walking through the hallway of getting shot by all the assault weapons and he was kicking their asses with that. And then he took the assault weapon off that guy and they did a Ben Affleck where he's hitting them with the guns, like the rifles and shit like that. That was an awesome scene too. And then I have to say that part we were talking about earlier with Riddler and Joker, so Riddler and Batman at the jail was really awesome too. So
yes.
They're probably my top 3 moments in the movie. To be honest, I didn't see the car chase because that was when I decided I need to take a breather and go have a quick cigarette because the movie still had another 4 hours to go.
That's one thing as well that I liked, that I think didn't happen as much in the Nolan movies is he still had, like, it wasn't over the top, but he still had a lot of little gadgets and things which weren't really overly explained or kind of made more believable. Like you had, like,
I hated that wingsuit, bro.
Yeah,
that wingsuit was ugly as, bro. It looked like he was wearing a fucking 2-person tent around him. And that one gadget he had it towards the end, I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, but when there's a lot of people with guns in the city and he kind of comes from the top down.
Yeah.
How did he set that all up in that space of time and have such a big explosion? That didn't make any sense to me, that part. But yeah, there was some weird moments too where it was like, he's like, oh, there's something bad's going to happen. And you're watching the bad thing not happen yet. But then you're finding out that the bad thing's happened already. So it's got some weird things like that. And the other thing I will say is the movie starts super slow and has way too much dialogue with like voiceover of just shots of like shit. Like a city shadow. I am the shadows. People think I hide in the shadows, but I am the shadows. And like it's just Batman narrating like things, and it goes for like at least 7 minutes, at least. And I was like, okay, we get it. You're explaining who you are, but like this is going on too long. You know what I mean?
And we know who you are.
Exactly. And I mean, what did you think about sort of the way I didn't really like the sort of the social media aspect to the whole thing.
That was interesting, but
it's cool, the idea, but it could have looked and been done a lot better to me.
I agree. I think it's made in 2022 or 2020 or something like that. So modern day, I don't think it would have looked like that. Like it wouldn't have looked like this old DOS-based text system. And...
Exactly. And it was weird too about sort of the Riddler was using like social media to like stream videos like as if you were doing Facebook Live or whatever like that. But like think about how he's sort of doing like the self footage of himself, which is exactly what Heath Ledger did in Dark Knight in 2008, which was film self footage of himself and it would be put up on the news and things like that. How do you think it was handled in this movie compared to the way it was handled in The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger? Because I think that Heath Ledger, I don't know if you knew, but Heath Ledger filmed those on his own accord without anybody there and filmed them with a camera himself and did it all himself. And I think that it was handled a lot cooler in that movie than it was in this movie. It was kind of like that background of the question mark and just sitting there talking to the camera. And I don't know, I just didn't find those parts really well done.
Yeah, I think those kind of moments were kind of there where it's like great for if you're a serial killer, if you're like, it almost felt like Seven or Saw or something like that. I don't think it was, it didn't, I don't think the Riddler would have done it that way. I think it could have been handled better. And even in that, him being kind of enigmatic in his messages, like not just directly kind of going, "This is what I'm doing. This is why." It's like I don't know.
Yeah, it is a weird way they portrayed the Riddler. Like I'm wondering why they picked the Riddler to be that, like they this character was just so written to be so not the Riddler, but then it couldn't have been written that way without them planning on it being the Riddler. So it was just a weird take on that character,
Yeah.
I think. So
And I think the weird thing is the actor clearly could have pulled it off the other way around as well. Like from the
I would love to see more of that that really psycho thing he was pulling off in the jail, as we just said before, where he was kind of showing that psychoness to him. I would have loved that in more of this movie, but instead he was very like, okay, so as an example, he'll be like, I'm here to talk to the Batman about why people lie. So through the whole movie, that was like sort of the tone, I'm here to make this city pay for the lies that everybody. So that's the way Riddler was the entire movie, basically until we got towards the end. And as we said, that's when he got a little bit kooky. And I would have loved to see that kookiness played out a little bit more, and maybe have him be a little bit more of like a not like comedic, but sort of have more of a comedic tone to his ways, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And what did you think about okay, so what blows my mind is this has the same rating in Australia as The Dark Knight. Now, I just looked it up on IMDb. This is rated PG-13 in America, man. I would never let my son watch this movie. What do you think about watching little kids watch this movie?
I think it would be nightmare fuel. It was a pretty grim, scary tone to it. Like
the first time you see Riddler, that reveal of him behind the dude in the office, and he's just standing there. That was nearly enough for me to go, this is okay. Nothing had happened yet, and I was like, this movie is not for kids. And that's what I mean. It blows my mind that Warner Brothers let this movie go through like this, because it's going to sell a lot of less kids' toys, Lego, things like that. Like, I'm sure they'll make the Batman Lego sets, but like any parent that takes their kids to see this movie, I wouldn't be surprised if they walk out during it because they think, oh, couldn't be that bad if it's only rated M. Trust me, this should have probably had an MA rating. What do you think? Do you think it was rated correctly, or do you think it probably should have been higher?
I'm surprised it wasn't MA. I think it's I'm fairly surprised on that. It's also interesting now thinking about it, discussing it in tone. I've just kind of come to this now. It kind of feels like a mix of the Nolan movies and the original two Tim Burton movies. I think it's like Tim Burton movies are kind of dark, but they have that zaniness about them. Whereas this was just fucking dark and grounded.
And I showed you that clip before of like other reviewers, like everyone's saying the same thing. This is the most, just depressing, deep, dark Batman movie ever. And I'd probably say, out of any superhero movie ever made, too, this is literally the darkest I've ever seen. Now, there's things like Morbius coming out and stuff, which also look kind of dark, but they also kind of still look like they have a bit of humor to them and sort of that. But yeah, as I said, if there's people like watching this review that have kids and are planning to take their kids to go see this movie, I'd think twice. I mean, once they get to probably 12 or 11 or something, like maybe, but any younger, and unless you kid, it goes, of course, it's a kid by kid basis. Yeah, it depends on the kid. It depends on what they're used to. It depends on how they handle things. But personally, I think this movie was so close to the tone of 7, and 7 is rated R, that like the only part of a Batman movie that you could say compares to this is the moment that the Joker has the cell phone sewed into that dude's stomach and it's ringing and you see all the sewed patches and shit. Okay, so imagine that part, but for 3 hours. you reckon that's a fair assumption to like that would be the only part in a Batman movie that you could compare this tone of this movie to?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it has elements too where you can kind of put a tone of like the way the grossness of the Penguin and stuff in Batman Returns, like that. There's moments in it like that too, but like we're just saying this is not a kids movie. This is not a superhero movie that you're going to take your kids to. And also, this is a movie that you don't want to go see if you're not wanting to sit there for 3 hours.
Yes.
And that's the end of our review. Just kidding. We're gonna have 4 false endings, just like the fucking movie did, man.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll kind of wrap it up now. Before we wrap this up and kind of give a score of what we're going to give it a score today rather than rank it because we aren't ranking it compared to the other Batman movies. What we are going to do though is this is going to be have a thing at the end saying to be continued, because in the next month or so, couple of months, we will be doing the other Batman movies, but this review itself will be included in those rankings. So this is the beginning of our Batman rankings, but we're gonna not be doing the rest of the Batman movies at least for another 6 weeks, 8 weeks maybe, you know what I mean? So I mean there's going to be no ranking or reviewing, proper review. We'll give it a score soon, but like, is there anything you wanted to kind of say before we wrap this up and give our final impression and score?
There's one thing I noticed, and kind of had a bit of a Google. I think, and I don't know if it's the intention, only Batman thing I know to my knowledge where they refer to Arkham as Arkham State Hospital. Only other thing like that is the Joker, which is also an incredibly dark-toned kind of Batman world. I reckon these movies are connected, and we're going to see that connection start to kind of be elaborated in the next movie. That's one thought I reckon.
I think so too, because as we said, we're not going to give anything away, but yeah, let's just say that there's something towards the end that's pretty telling. So, all right, so I'm going to quickly give my score of it. Now, I feel like this movie's kind of getting a little bit too much credit. I think it's not too much credit. I think it's getting too much. I don't know. I just don't think it's getting too high a praise for me. Like, I think this is a great movie. I think it was good. It was a great Batman movie. Probably the second best, as I said, but I don't think it was a 10 out of 10 like I've seen IGN give it and other reviewers give it. I feel like this is a solid 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5. Like, I couldn't cut between it's. Look, let's just say 3.5 between 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, because my problems with it is length. The tone it doesn't ever let up. I know it would be nice to have a couple of breathers with that sort of tone rather than come out of the movie and feel like, literally I came out of the movie and being like, all right, Alan, well, that was fun. I'll see you later. I'll speak to you later when we go home. We have to do the... Like, it literally made me feel like that. I don't know if you felt the same leaving the cinema.
Absolutely. And yes, definitely. And everything was very bright and vibrant. Like, I'm pretty sure when I walked out to you, I said to you, man, the real world is fucking bright. Like, I was struggling to see.
No shit.
My eyes are just adjusted to this dark.
I said, I know what movie I'll be... if I ever decide to hang myself, I know what movie I'll chuck on in the background while I'm doing it. So yeah, 3.5 from me out of 5. What's your score, Alan?
I'm the same as you. I wouldn't give it that 10 out of 10, but I'll give it probably the same as what I saw Bat in the Sun put it up, and I'll probably say a 7 out of 10, so maybe a 4 out of 5. It's not perfect, but it's good. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, so yeah, I think me and you are in the same camp as each other when it comes to the score of this movie. Is that how you feel? You feel like we probably liked it just about as much as each other?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So yeah, everyone, that was our review, ranked and review, even though we're not ranking it. Well, we are, but later on, of the Batman. So yeah, we've got a lot more stuff coming up later in the week. We've got a new episode of the Louder Pop Culture Podcast coming up. We got another episode of Nerdy by Nature coming up from Alannis. You got another 10 things you didn't know coming from me, which, by the way, I'm still having trouble deciding what I'm going to do for the next episode. I'm tossing up whether if I'm going to do 10 things you didn't know about Fantasy Factory or Robin Big or something like that, or 10 things you didn't know about. I was thinking maybe, what was I thinking of the other day? I was going to think of maybe doing 10 things you didn't know about Pokemon cards, because there's some pretty interesting things about Pokemon cards, like banned cards, error cards, misprints, the way they're handled at the factory. There's some pretty crazy auction prices and things like that. So there's a few ideas I got going around. And yeah, we've got a few more things coming up too. So make sure, as we said before, you subscribe, like, and share. We have a competition going at the moment where you're going to win Soultone Custom Brilliant Tomye West Escobar Series 10-inch splash. If you're a drummer, if you're not, you could maybe use it as a frisbee. It's got a little logo and signature of mine on it. Once we get to 100 subscribers, that's going to be given to one subscriber. So we are at 89 subscribers at the moment, man. So we've got 11 away, which is awesome. So we're really close. So if you haven't liked or subscribed, if you haven't subscribed to the page yet, make sure you do, because you could win something cool. And once we reach that milestone, we will probably do more competitions to get to the next milestone and the milestone after that. And the higher we go, the better the prizes are going to get too. So yeah, also go to our Facebook page, like that. We also just finished our Indiana Jones ranked and reviewed series, so you can go check that out. We've done Scream ranked and reviewed. We've done Jackass ranked and reviewed. And next week we start our CKY ranked and reviewed series. So again, that's in 2 episodes, not 4, even though there's 4 things. So it'll be in 2 parts. It'll be CKY in review, ranked and reviewed part 1, CKY ranked and reviewed part 2. And in part 1, you'll get CKY 1, CKY 2. Part 2, you'll get CKY 3, CKY 4. Is there anything you want to say before we go, Alan?
Not heaps, apart from I'm Batman.
And I overstayed my welcome. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Have a good one.